Hey guys, Dave and Len here. Today on Wargame Chat we're going to talk about battles and games we have that represent specific battles. I'll start with one, Battle of the Bulge. First thing that comes to mind is Avalon Hill Battle of the Bulge, which I have at home. I've played it a bunch of times. I don't think I've ever played it against a human being, though. I think every time I've played it solo. But it's okay solo. My only complaint... Well, actually I have two complaints. It's a good game. Yeah, borderline good game. But the two complaints I have are not historically accurate enough. Oh, the other complaint, now I remember, it takes too long to set up. Well, those are the two complaints, but other than that, it's pretty decent. Have you ever played Battle of the Bulge from Avalon Hill?
Yes. Actually, every Battle of the Bulge game takes too long to set up. You have regimental-sized units all over the place, throw in a few reinforced battalions, and they all come in at different times. Mm-hmm. So it takes forever to set up a Battle of the Bulge game.
You ever played Battle of the Bulge from Avalon Hill against another player, or was it always solo?
I played it against other players.
How was it?
If you know what you're doing, it's okay, but that's the problem if you know what you're doing. Because what it is the first 4 or 5 days, first 2 days, Germans get to push people around. Then the Allied lines start hardening because you retreat enough that you can form defensive lines and you get more reinforcements. Then it becomes a matter of the Germans try to break through somewhere. Mm. I think the thing I liked about the Avalon Hill one is that I remember it went all the way to January because you had to deal with the German offensive and then the American counteroffensive. Because with that one, sometimes the Germans could win the game by putting up a good defense in the second half and wear down enough American units that suddenly there's a hole in the line and they can advance and get a tactical victory. So, yeah.
All right, another one be the Battle of Stalingrad. Avalon Hill has the game about that. We reviewed that. I don't like the combat results table in it, and Stalingrad, it just doesn't feel like a Stalingrad game. It just feels like any old East Front game to me. Well, the terrain on the board's excellent, though. If you can use the terrain on the board, you're going to probably win.
Well, actually, that's like a strategic game. I mean, a better title for that game would have been Eastern Front.
Yeah, that would have made more sense, yeah.
Because a lot of times when I think of a Stalingrad game, I think about the games where you're fighting in the city, where, the whole map is the entire city of Stalingrad, or at least half the map is the city of Stalingrad. And you got to fight your way into the areas, and it's really tough. And everything.
Yeah, I'd like to see a Stalingrad game that's like mostly street fighting and stuff like it really was. I've never had one like that. Do you know of any?
I'm trying to think. There've been a few, but I can't think of their names right off. Because I never really cared for this subject.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. What other battles?
What about Gettysburg?
Okay, we played that Gettysburg.
Yeah, the Avalon Hill one. I think it's great. It plays like a miniatures game. I think it's one of the best games Avalon Hill came out with. I had so much fun playing that.
Yeah, to me it was one of the first war games I played, and to me it was at the time very complex. And when I played against Dave, it was like, geez, this is like on quad, the quad game level. Yeah. Just the very basics.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how easy it was, how much I've learned. And we didn't have arguments over the terrain like you usually have in that game. Because they learned after a while how to move the terrain to conform to the grid line, to the hex line. But at the time they didn't know this, so it's like, is that a hill, with the one with the two lines? Well, yes, maybe no. And sometimes we roll the dice to the side. That's not a hill. So.
But yeah, that game I like quite a bit. What are some of the other Gettysburg games you've played over the years that you like or that you've owned?
I haven't bought that many Gettysburg games. I tried, Avalanche Press has one with the little rectangle counters with step losses and everything.
Kind of like those ancient games, Avalon, or not Avalon Hill, Avalanche Press has
Yeah.
with rectangular counters that
Yes.
represent huge formations and
Yeah.
stuff.
And I remember I only had time to play the first day of Gettysburg, and actually that went well because when you do a Gettysburg campaign where you're covering the whole 3 days, a lot of things can be different from history. Sometimes, the Confederates take a little round top the first day. Or the Union may hold the town of Gettysburg or something. So, sometimes the battle line is totally different. But this one, you had the first day is like a meeting engagement, and it's tough for both sides.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's other, but I never really cared for Gettysburg. The Battle of Shiloh is something else.
Mm.
So, I think I tried to get every Battle of Shiloh game out there.
Hmm.
So,
You must like that battle.
well, I consider it actually it's the important victory for the North, because this is the one where we found out that Grant and Sherman could win battles.
Mm.
And also, people forget that the Confederate Army in the West was powerful, and Grant defeated them soundly,
Mm.
and that's despite being surprised. So,
That's cool. Yeah, there one battle, the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, the one where the Romans lost a couple legions. Played a game for that from the company that makes Against the Odds magazine. What's the name of their game company?
it's the odds.
Turning Point Simulations.
yeah.
Yeah, from them. I can't remember the name of the game, but it was pretty good. It felt really crowded when you were playing it, which is actually historically accurate, because I mean the Romans were just fighting on a narrow road in the middle of a really thick forest, so it felt very crowded when you were playing and stuff. So I don't know. I thought it was reasonably historically accurate.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard for the Romans to win that battle.
Yeah, very hard. It was very hard for any army to win that battle because you're all stretched out on a road.
Well, one thing, Romans in later years would have fight battles like that, stretched out on the road against in the forest, but they were ready for it. And then
Yeah.
it's a totally different matter.
True, but remember, the roads and forests back then weren't like now. I mean, they're just basically generally just like deer paths where you could barely get a wagon through, you know what I mean? So, I mean, the Romans could march like two abreast and stuff. So, essentially, when you're in that thin of a line, anytime you get attacked, it's very easy for the enemy to completely outnumber you and stuff. So,
Well, there was one battle in the 3rd century A.D. in which the Romans actually they found historical records of a expedition into Germany that marched as much as a day away from where the future Berlin would be. On the way back, there was the Goths massed in this one area. They were on a hill, waiting to ambush the Romans, and when the Romans got close, they started their attack. The Romans formed like defensive lines, and then a short while later, a force of Romans appears behind the Goths. The Romans knew they were going to be attacked there, so they were ready.
well, that's good.
I gotta look that up. I forget which.
That sounds interesting, actually. I might have read about that years back. I'd like to read about it again.
The late Roman period tends to be overlooked and has lots of interesting battles, lots of interesting wars.
Well, Belisarius, I mean, that guy was an extremely good general.
Well, there are people like Illyrian and Majorius and a few other characters that were good, too, and they almost turned the tide. And don't forget Stilicho, before he was assassinated.
Oh, I know who Stilicho, or I don't know how you pronounce it.
Stilicho,
Yeah.
Okay, and he was good. He defeated the barbarians on many occasions. And that's why the emperor got jealous of him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's see, what other battles here?
Waterloo is the classic.
Yeah, what's your favorite Waterloo game?
What was the one? It was SPI, and it had the 4 battles of Waterloo, including like a big campaign game connecting all 4 battles. it was basically Napoleon at Waterloo with, just a few changes. And actually, mainly so that you can have a 3-day battle. Because I'm trying to remember, GDW had a classic too. That was good. Actually, I found out later they reprinted it with changes on the map and things like that, which I never knew. Also, SBI they did a reprint of Wellington's Victory. Now, actually, they redid the game. Now, normally I hate when they do this, but the original was kind of complicated. And I tried like the intro scenario, and actually, it went well, even though actually it was strange. The rules were kind of they were easy to understand, but hard to understand why. Like for instance, there's no stacking in a corps. You can put all the battalions in the corps in one stack. Of course, once you play it, you understand you don't want to do that. You could, in other words, the enemy could surround you and you're out of supply and they can kill you.
Yeah. One thing of it was stacking. Game authors don't do this very often, but when they do it, I like it. Sometimes they'll give you unlimited stacking, but then if like your hex gets attacked by artillery or something, it individually attacks each unit in the hex, so there's like a downside to stacking. I kind of like when game designers do that.
Actually, I like when there's just one unit per hex, except for a leader or an information counter.
Yeah, that certainly keeps counters from falling over and stuff, and you don't have to pick up the counter to examine it to see what's attacking and what's defending. I mean, that slows down the game and stuff.
Are you hearing that, Avalanche Press? We talk about Panzer Grenadier too much. One of the infamous violators of stacking. You can have as much as 3, 4, 5, at least 6 units in a stack, sometimes more. So.
Yeah, I got 2 Panzer Grenadier games at home. I got the one where it's like the intro to it, and I got the other one where it's a Korean War version. God, I don't think I've ever tried either one. I've played Panzer Grenadier with you, but I've never tried my own copy of it.
Yeah, we played the Guadalcanal one, Alligator Creek, and you were complaining how bored you were. And
is that the one where it was like 2 counters on each side or something, and I don't know, there was some battle, or maybe 4 counters on a side or something?
Now, this one had at least a dozen on.
Oh, okay.
At least
we played some World War II game once where, I don't know, it was the U.S. Marines versus the Japanese, and I don't know, the Japanese had about 4 units, and the Marines, I don't know, 4 units or 6 units.
That's somebody else. So,
yeah, that one, I thought there was enough units to make it interesting.
Because that was like Edson's Ridge, somebody else's version of Edson's Ridge.
Oh, okay.
And actually, that's interesting, because I remember saying it was like the Americans had 2 companies, which is what they had at Edson Ridge, 2 companies, and or 2 battalions, equivalent of. And the Japanese had like about 6 battalions, equivalent of. And that was right. Now, we're used to fighting these battles in company or platoon level. So that's why it seems so strange.
Cool. Any other battles you can think of?
Okay. Do we do Agincourt?
Agincourt, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
The Agincourt game I like is the simple GDW one, the Series 120 game. That's a hell of a lot of fun to play, and sets up pretty quick, plays quick, and you get a reasonable result. I mean, you can never use the word historically accurate with Agincourt because they know so little about the composition of the actual armies that were there and stuff. So there's like a lot of guesswork people do when they create games about that. But boy, is that game fun.
One thing is the English, I think, goes at 60% of the 2/3 of the formation are archers.
Right.
In this battle, very good.
Yeah, that part they know. It wasn't intentional, though. When they started that campaign, they had a more normal percentage of archers, but that's just what happened to have survived to this point in the campaign.
Yeah, because the men of arms was, I think, the attrition was hard on them for some reason. And by the time they got to that point, King Henry the Fifth just knew he couldn't really attack. So I forget the reason why he couldn't retreat that day, so he had to stand and fight.
Mm.
And we always wondered, how come the French didn't try to outflank him? Well, there was a point in the battle where the English killed some hostages because they're about to be... I always thought that was the flanking, and the men at arms fought it off.
Mm.
So, okay. Yeah, because that's, I was thinking, what other medieval battles are there?
There was that one, it wasn't so specific battle, but there was that one game from Strategy and Tactics you brought over here that one time about all that medieval stuff that was pretty good. Men of Arms or something, I can't remember what it was called.
Oh yeah, that's the one with generic counters and...
Yeah. That one actually was decent. I don't normally like games with generic counters. Like, there's that one game... what is it? Time Tripper. Everyone likes Time Tripper except for me. To me, I just was like blah. But everyone else I know who's played the game thinks it's absolutely phenomenal. So,
I won a few naval games. Battle of Midway. There've been several versions of it, and I was thinking that's a hard one to simulate because both the Japanese and Americans know what's coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true, because in the real battle, the Americans had broke the Japanese codes, and they had much better intelligence than the Japanese did.
Yeah, because the Japanese know, okay, the Americans out there with 3 carriers, let's be careful now. Mm-hmm. We don't have to bomb Midway right now. Mm-hmm. We'll just keep our torpedoes and wait till we... And the Americans know that the Japanese are alerted. So a lot of times when you play Midway, it's never the same result. You never have... Because I think Avalon Hill had the classic game where it was a double-blind game.
I think I got that at home somewhere. I've never tried it.
And that always led to a lot of strange strategies. So, I don't know if you played this. You have these half spaces at the bottom. Send your fleet down them because no one ever looks for them. Because I think you can only call out so many hexes per turn.
Gotcha.
So, all right. I'm trying to think.
Other battles. Let's think here. Yeah, that's all I'm coming up with right now. You got any others?
Because I was thinking there were other World War II battles. There's various Africa Corps ones. And,
like Tobruk and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And, oh wait, the Battle of Britain. That's...
I've only played a game about the Battle of Britain once. I can't remember what the game was, but it sounds like you've played it more than I have.
Well, the problem with Battle of Britain is the campaign is complex. Expect to read 30 pages of rules before you can even start, because you have to go through manning stations, where you're going to place the squadrons, and also detection, where you're going to fight, and so on and so forth. But I'm trying to think, what is it? Burning Blue was actually, I thought it was a good one. Everybody's like, they understand the complexity of intercepting a raid, because they don't cover the entire battle. What they do is they cover a few days, because one thing you learn is the Battle of Britain had like about 2-3 days of heavy activity followed by 2 days of rest, 2-3 days, and sometimes they didn't fly on the good days because for some reason the Germans didn't fly on good days. Now, I sometimes think they had logistical problems that people don't really talk about. And, because I know, was it Avalon Hill? No, Luzacci had the famous first one. And even in Metz nowadays, it's kind of, well, it needs to be improved on.
Gotcha.
So, and I think TSR had one. Actually, it was SBI, and I think they republished it with TSR. And of of course, I think GMT had the Burning Blue one, which I think is the best. But boy, is that complex to get started.
GMT, they got a lot of complex games there.
Well, they have the world's smartest game testers. Because when they say how complex the game is, I always knock 2 digits off the number. If they say it's a 5, well, actually add 2 digits, it's really a 7. So
who's that game reviewer who does regular board games mostly? Tom Vassell, I forget is his name. I forget the name of his YouTube channel or whatever, but he doesn't do many war games on there, actually extremely rare. But one time GMT Games had sent him something, and he looked at the back, and I don't know, it said like a complexity level of 4. So he's like, this says a complexity level of 4, but since it's made by GMT Games, that means it's actually a complexity level of 10.
I knows. They have one, GMT had one called Comanche, which I'm interested in the subject, but...
you mean Comancheria?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is the steepest learning curve in a game I've played in probably a long time. You're not going to be able to sit down, read the rules, and start playing it. You're going to have to watch YouTube videos. I think the author of the game has some, and so forth, and so on and so forth. Yeah, but without those, you're going to have a lot of trouble learning the game.
All I remember is that it seemed like every turn, there's something like 10 turns in the game or something like that. But each turn is totally different because the strategic situation changes. It's like a generational turn. So it's like one turn, the Comanches are weak, but their opponents are only a little bit stronger than and so on. Yes, one of these days it's like the Siege of Jerusalem. I'm keeping it out, and one of these days I'm going to be up for the challenge. Actually, that's the thing. Another complaint: Siege of Jerusalem. Rome. This is the largest city Rome has ever laid siege to. You'd think there would be more games on it.
Yeah, you don't see that many siege games, though. I think it's because it's a siege you don't see many on it. If it was just a regular battle, I think you would see a lot more games about it. But like sieges in general, there's not too many games about them in wargaming.
Yeah, because I was about to say, there was a good one about the Siege of Malta that I think 3W had, which I thought was great.
I've actually been to Malta. That's a cool place to visit. The whole island looks like a fortress. But the architecture in there and stuff is excellent, and the museums, you can go there and see all this old armor and old weapons and stuff in museums. It was really cool. I was only there for a day. We took a cruise in the Mediterranean, but that was a really good day. All right, I think that's all we got, guys. We'll have something new for you next week. Have a good evening.
All right.